Hello, everyone. Welcome to Clarissa's Corner. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Clarissa Gossett, and I'm an educator for R&K Distributing. And R&K Distributing distributes products for Floriani, Quilter, Select, and Embellish. So today we're going to talk about how to do continuous embroidery. Before we get started, I want to share my screen and share some information with you. All right, so this is information on where you can find me later. Right, so sometimes questions come up, sometimes you've got a problem, you can't figure something out. This is how you can get a hold of me. So you can always email me at cgossett@rnkdistributing.com. Here is the blog. That is information. That is all of the written information, as well as all the assets or components you'll need for each project. So for this project, you'll get the instructions as well as the embroidery design. So go there to get the information for today's project. My name is Clarissa, Clarrisa, Floriani Educator. So like my personal Floriani Facebook page, and I'll post information there as well. Alrighty, so let's get started with today's project. Alrighty, so continuous embroidery. So this all began in my head as a result of buying some new china at a thrift store. Okay. So China isn't very popular right now. The younger generation, listen to me, like I sound like an old person here. We're more casual these days, let's say. We don't set the fancy table as much. But I still like China. I love the pretty patterns and things like that. So this China was like 12 place settings and the gravy bowl and everything to go with it. Okay. And geez, I think I paid 80 bucks for it. Not much. So anyway, got it. So this is the little creamer. See how pretty that pattern is? And I needed a table runner to go with it. Okay. So I got thinking, what could I do? I need to embroider down the middle the table runner. Now, if I have my table extended all the way out for my family, it's pretty long. So here we go, thinking. I purchased a bluish table runner, okay, and decided I needed embroidery design to go down the middle. So that's where I began the thought process for this project. So continuous embroidery. I'm going to teach you two things, basic things today, two concepts today of how to place the markers in software for continuous embroidery and how to physically move the fabric to line it up each time. Okay. So I'm going to start with a little software lesson from Floriani Total Control U. Now, that is our flagship software program. If you own it, great. If you don't, that's fine. The concept is still the same on how to place those markers. Some reasons to own it, though, is it's pretty easy to use. It's pretty user friendly as far as digitizing and things go compared to some other brands I've used. 5 free designs every month, unlimited software support. You can email me and I'll answer questions if you need to. Okay, we actually want you to use this software and you don't have to pay for lessons and things like that. So user friendly. We like to help and we like people to use our software. All right, so I'm not sure what specials are going on right now, but contact your local dealer and see how much they're selling it for right now. And I think at various points there are free goodies that come with it as well. All right, so let's start. Let me share my screen. Okie dokie. So this is Floriani Total Control U. And let's see, so my toolbars kind of got mixed up in all the messing around I was doing. So I'm resetting my workspace. There we go. We've got everything back. Okay, so in my mind, I kept thinking about what I wanted for a design. Kind of wanted flowers that matched my little china set right here. So it didn't have roses, it were more open petal flowers and some, stems and leaves and things like that, and a few little, baby's breath and stuff like that. So the first place I start looking are my free designs. So right here is the library, and this is where all the free monthly designs are. Well, this is where they install every month automatically. So if you open that, you can peruse through each month and see what is in that month as far as designs go. Okay, but that's kind of laborious if have something particular in mind. So instead of taking that route and looking for, designs through all those folders, I'm going to do something else every month with that free download of designs. Right below it is an option to download a PDF file. So download that PDF file and every month replace the previous months and you'll have a picture of all the designs. Okay, so here's what my PDF file looks like. Let's see right here. All right, so I'm going to kind of scroll up to the top here. I don't even know how many free designs there are now. I should do the math, right? So we started in 2009, 10 years of 5 free designs every month. That's a lot of free designs. All right, so here's pictures of what they look like. So keeping in mind what I wanted, I started scrolling down and looking. Oh, these are pretty, kind of Easterish ones, but I don't quite see the florals I want there. This is kind of a cute, kind of modernistic floral. That'd be cute for a continuous embroidery design. And of course, you can use anything, but I kind of had something in mind that I wanted. And so all this looking, and I ended up with, way clear down here at the bottom, is January 2023, January of this year. I liked these flowers right here. Okay, so January of 2023, keep that in mind. All right, so open my software back up and let's go to January 2023. Go to the library, January 2023, and hover over the design tab. And there's the file I want right there. So I select it and drag it onto my screen. Yay. Okay, so let's see that in 3D. All right, so looking at that, it's cute and all, but I didn't really want the bunny. I just wanted the flower. I'm going to select it. I'm going to right click, ungroup it, and bye-bye, Mr. Bunny. You're cute, but we'll use you for something else later. So we're going to select that part, delete it, use our lasso, and we can just kind of drag around there like that. And when it gets back to the beginning, right click, and there we go, and delete. Yay, so those are the flowers I want. So a couple of things. Now, we can use it as it is. But I thought this kind of looked Christmassy with the pine boughs there, so I'm going to select that and delete it. Some other messing around I did. I didn't quite like this so much, so I'm going to select it and find in my sequence view. Let's make this large. Where that is, it's this color here. And select it, delete. All right, so let's see. I really like this, and my China pattern had kind of a lot of baby breath kind of looking flowers in it. So I'm going to select it, do Control C on my keyboard, Control V, paste, and bring that another one over here. Put it up in there, maybe make it just a wee bit bigger. Something like that. And then we can start moving other things around. Okay, this little flower right, excuse me, the leaves. Let's see, that is in this color right here. I'm gonna move it down here, maybe to kind of balance things out a bit. But when I do that, I don't need this piece here. This flower is kind of a open flower. It's not real dense in stitches, so I'm going to actually select it, find it here, and close it or hide it, and then delete this section here. And let's see, maybe I don't need this. I don't have to do this, but this dark green or this green might show through my light blue flower. That little stem is a little long, so we can take our shape tool. Slide this maybe down there. That's my stop. Delete this stitch. Move this down to be the end. Right click, and there we go. Oops, we missed one out here, didn't we? And there we go. Alrighty, so that's a little shorter. We can grab this piece, maybe our little rosebuds right here. Whoops, that kind of grabbed part of this leaf. We could use our lasso instead. Oops. Deselect, there we go. Do the lasso. And you can also use the lasso and click with it. So if you click with the lasso, it will turn every time you click. And let's move this little piece down a little bit here. And I don't need that part of the stem anymore. All right, maybe we could put another baby's breath over here. See what we're just messing around. So kind of fun things we can do. But I messed around until I got it how I wanted. Let's wake that purple flower back up. There we go. Alrighty, so maybe we'd move this down as well. A lot of messing around until you get it how you like. This is what I ended up with. Okay, so that's what I finally ended up with by moving the little pieces around and getting it how I wanted. Um, the color scheme is based on my china. If we look at this china again, you can see maybe the little yellow flowers, got the yellow flowers, the pink flowers, the little blue flowers, and some green stems. Okay, so that's where I got my color inspiration from. So I just started, pulling threads that were on that color theme. All right, so I changed all my colors up, and now I need to make it continuous. Right? So I have one, I need two. I decided to use my 200 by 300 hoop. I'm going to grab that now, and you, of course, will grab whatever hoop you own, and I'm going to fit it within this hoop. I'm going to do a Control A, and that will get the entire design. You know what, before I do that, let me do this. I'm going to baste around this design. Right? And the reason I'm doing that is I need to see the parameters of the design when I put my next piece in. So in your settings or your program preferences, the gear, under auto based, you can adjust some things. All right, so I don't want any space between the outside of my design and my basting. So I set this to 0. So slide the bar clear down there. All right, 6mm stitches. It really doesn't matter because I'm just using this as a visual reference. And I don't want the crosshairs. Now the crosshairs are these little notches right there that will stitch so you can line up things vertically and horizontally. I'm not going to worry about those. I'm going to say, okay, my settings are good, and then I'm going to baste. There we go. Let's do a Control A. One more time, Control A, there we go. And move this clear over here. Okay, and I want to copy it and paste it. We're going to do a Control C now. That's a Control copy. Control V will paste it. and bring another one over here. So at this point, I could stitch that continuously, but I kind of decided I liked it. Maybe if I alternate them. So one this direction, one that direction. Let me share the screen and show you a picture here. Okay, so you can see on the finished runner, I have one going this direction and another going the opposite direction. You don't have to. I just thought it would be kind of fun. Then you could see it nicely from both sides of the table, right? Okay, so let's get back to our software and let's mirror this one. Uh, this direction. There we go. All right, so we can kind of see they're kind of running into each other a little bit there. So let's maybe scoot that one over a bit. And I'm using nudge on my keyboard. So I hold control on my keyboard down and use the arrow, and that right arrow to move that over just a bit. Give it a second. It's kind of slow. A lot of stitches to move, right? Moving it just a little bit over that way. That's good. Okay. Well, there we go. That's how I decided to kind of stitch them out. So how do you put the markers in for placement each time? It's not that difficult. So luckily we have our basting lines here. So let's see, let's zoom in on this end here and put, I call them placement brackets, let's say. We're going to use our pencil, or you know what, let's just use our running stitch and click where we want those brackets to go. So here's one end. We've got that running stitch. Now if we look, it's whenever you add something to designs, it's clear at the bottom. And there it is. Okay, and now a Clarissa thing is I like all placement stitches to be red. That just in my brain indicates time to place something. So I'm just going to look up color 703, and that's red, and change that to red. And we're going to move it clear to the top so it will stitch first. All right, beautiful. Then we're going to take that same placement line and we're going to put it down here at the end, but where should we put it? Okay, because remember, these aren't lined up exactly, they're overlapping a little. So if we zoom in on that overlap, they are overlapping about 3/4 of an inch. Okay. Oh, and I forgot. Let me show you how to set your screen, also your workspace grid. I have, oh, make sure this is set for inches first. Okay, so on your ruler, right click and make sure it's set on inches. Then go to your preferences, go to grid, make sure your spacing is 0.25 and every 4. So what that is these are the spacing and this is the grid major. Okay, so every 4 is an inch. So these are 1/4 inches in between. I like mine set that way so I can kind of visualize things instead of having to guess. So if I look visually, this is 1/4 of an inch from here to here and about 1/8 of an inch from here to here. So about 3/8 of an inch across. Now I can measure, use my ruler here, and measure from here to here. It's about 0.3637 is 3/8 of an inch. Okay, so we're going to take and copy this first marker, this bracket, do a Control C, Control V. We're going to mirror it move it down here. And we are going to move it 3/8 of an inch from the end. So here's our outside basting line. Let's zoom in on that so we can see a little better. Okay, so what we need to do is take our design. We'll have to measure this because this didn't end up exactly on 1/4 of an inch. So let's say about right there, and let's measure this time. From here to that black line. Ooh, that's a little too far. 0.4. Let's select it and use our nudge to nudge it over a bit. Now let's try measuring it again. 3.5. That's pretty darn close. Okay, so let's zoom back out. And a couple last housekeeping things we need to do. We do not need these basting lines anymore. That was just for visual. We don't need this one. And what I need to do to the brackets is, let's make our sequence view smaller, make those longer stitches because I'm just basting those and I'm going to have to pull them out later. And then lastly, let's put those to sleep because we're going to color sort the rest. Let's see if it'll do that. Give it a second to color sort that all together. And there we go. So now we've got our colors together. We've got our brackets. Right click and whoops, show all. Wake everything back up. And there we go. We are ready to stitch that out. Okay, so concept. Understand? The overlap was 3/8 of an inch. So we're going to put that last bracket 3/8 of an inch from the end. Yay! And the crowd cheers. Okay, so how do we physically do this? How do we line it up each time? So let me move my camera over to my sewing area or to my cutting table. And here we go. Okay, so let's start with some things we're gonna need. Okay, so there are two options for stabilizer. Okay, so you can use Floriani Perfect Stick. If you're going to do something like I'm doing with, I believe there were 9 repeats on this table runner. Okay, so there were 9 after everything was finished. Oh, by the way, I purchased a pre-made table runner. Got this on Amazon. It's a nice linen table runner. Okay. So 9 repeats, that's a lot of Perfect Stick. So instead, I'm going to show you how to use Heat and Stay instead of the Perfect Stick. So Heat and Stay is a tearaway. It's Floriani tearaway. And it's got one side that's fusible. I don't know if you can see that shiny side. That's the fusible side, and that's the side you'll hoop up. All right, so we need that. You're going to need copper. This is very, very, very important. You'll be stitching on delicate fabric with a lot of heavy stitches. So you need a topper on top to protect your fabric. And when you get done, you don't want to wash it away and bring water to your project. So we're going to use Heat and Gone from the Floriani line, or from the Embellish, it's Heat Away Topper. So Heat and Gone from Floriani, or the Embellish line is Heat Away Topper. Okay, so either one will work. So we'll need that. We're also going to need to kind of add a little body to our fabric, a little more thread count to our fabric, but not a lot of bulk. So this is Dreamweave from the Floriani line, or you can use from the embellished line, the fusible interlining. It's called fusible interlining. So you'll need to cut strips of this to fuse to the back where you're going to place your embroidery. Okay, so the easiest way to cut your strips is to lay this out. And they don't have to be perfect, by the way. So this embroidery design is 4 inches wide. So I cut my strips 6 inches. 6-ish, how's that? So you'll just fold it in multiple layers to cut it. Even it, flatten it out the best you can, and then cut your strips 6 inches. And you'll cut enough strips to be a little bit longer than your finished embroidery. Okay, so you'll need that. You'll also need some glass head pins. These are this is the Quilter Select pin tin, and in it are glass head pins. You'll need spray starch, and because we need to give our fabric a little more control with starching it. All right, so to prepare, here's what you're going to do. So you'll take your strip of fabric, whatever it is, table runner, whatever you're stitching on, and you're going to starch the front side of the area you're going to embroider. So I'm going to embroider right down here. So I'm going to use my spray starch and starch this center section. Okay. Now it doesn't have to be exact. Once again, I know this is my area-ish. Best to use light layers of starch. So lightly spray, press, lightly spray, press about 4 times. Okay, you don't want to lay down a whole bunch of starch because it can, your iron might discolor your fabric and it won't work well. Believe me, I know. Okay, from experience. So a little bit starch and press. Okay, so whole center section. You'll then turn it over and you're going to draw a line down the center of the area where you want to embroider. Okay, so I used my Quilter Select erasable marker and just drew a line down the center. You'll then lay your Dreamweave or your embellish fusible interlay, what is it called? I gotta get the right terminology here. Yeah, underlay, excuse me, not interlay, underlay. So your embellish fusible underlay or your Dreamweave over that center line and just kind of center it-ish. It doesn't have to be perfect, and fuse that on. Okay, so now our fabric is prepared. Okay, so here we are going to embroider from the center out. And the reason I decided to do that was because I didn't want to have to calculate the math on how many of these motifs and where I'm going to end up at the end. So let me show you the finished one here. Well, the somewhat finished. I have one last section that I saved for today. But here's the end of the finished one. And you can see that there's a whole area that does not have any embroidery. Now I decided I don't want to embroider anything there because this is going to hang over the edge of the table and it doesn't matter really. Okay, so I could probably fit another embroidery in there, but I'm not going to worry about it. If you're worried about it and you do want to fit another embroidery there and it's maybe not big enough, maybe just stitch one of these on instead of the whole design. Okay, but we're going to start in the center and stitch out. So here we go. In the instructions, it has you fold your strip in half and mark the center. So I folded this in half, found the center and marked it. Right? And then, and this is all written on your instructions, you'll mark that same center on your stabilizer and you're going to pin, match the marks, and embroider the center section. All right, so now we've got the center done. We're going to work to the right, first of all. So I've stitched out this entire area. The next thing I'll do is I'll hoop. Oh, grab my hoop here. A piece of the heat and stay stabilizer. Oh, no, I forgot to give you a little secret on that. You'll want to cut all your pieces ahead of time. I just find it easier than having to stop and cut and all that fun stuff. So what you'll do is you'll take your stabilizer, your heat and stay. And here's a way to cut multiples. So I determine how long I need my piece to be. Something like that. And then I'll just kind of hold my finger there and fold. Unroll, increase that end here, and fold again until I have the amount of layers I want to complete my project. So I had 9, so I folded until I had 9 layers. And we're just going to stick with 4 today. Okay, and then you're going to take your Quilter Select ruler and cut off one end. You'll lay your ruler on the fold, and just about 1/4 of an inch from the fold, and cut that end off. And then you'll cut the other end off. There, you've got all your layers cut at the same time. And it's kind of curly. Oops. And so you'll want to take it, I'll of course get my first piece out to hoop. Then I'll take the rest and slide them under my cutting mat. I'll kind of flatten them out while I'm working on the other pieces. I'll take my first piece and hoop it and slide the rest under the cutting mat. You'll want to cut multiple pieces of the topper so you'll have them ready to slide on top when you're ready to go. Okay, so you'll hoop one layer of the heat and stay. Now, or your perfect stick, you decide. You'll want to hoop it with the fusible side up and the perfect stick sticky side up. Okay, so then you'll stitch color number 1 only. That's this bracket. Okay, so that's stitched. This is for the other side. We'll pretend that's not there. You'll take it off your machine and you're going to mark the horizontal center. And I've got kind of a line on my cutting mat. I can see. Use my Quilter Select marker and ruler to mark that horizontal center. Okay. You won't have this. This is for later. Okay. So as we are working to the right, we're going to match here and embroider here. So we'll be going to the right. We'll take our previous stitched area. Now we've already stitched the center on this one, remember? So you've stitched 1. We're going to move to the right. So this mark, the last mark, will match this mark. But since we don't have sticky, this is heat and stay, remember? we're going to use our Quilter Select glue stick and put a little glue on there. Something like that, and a little glue down the center. While we're lining things up. Then we're going to place this on top of our pressing surface. Move my pressing mat over. This is on top. Let's turn it this way so we can see better. All right. So then you're going to take your glass head pins, and you do want glass head pins because we will be pressing. We don't want to melt our pins. All right, and then you're going to take and poke a pin through the top layer here where that mark is. And lift your fabric and match it to the mark on the stabilizer. Just like that. See where the pin is? Poke that down into the pressing surface. Move the pin on the other one. Lift and match that mark. And poke it. Whoops. Let go. Again, there we go. My hand's in the way. Sorry, I'll move my hand in just a second. You can see the pin there. Poke that down. And I like to poke the pins at this point kind of at an angle. That'll hold the fabric tight to that stabilizer. Okay. Angle that pin in there. That. All right, and stick that down. You'll then lift up, and you've got your center mark. You'll just line it up with the center mark in your hoop and just kind of roll it down on top of that center mark. And the glue is just there to kind of temporarily hold it until we press it. Let's see it matching. There we go. Stick that down and then press. We're going to take, and my iron is set on a linen setting with no steam. We'll press, press, press. And I'm using a little travel iron. If you've got a little travel iron, it works great for pressing things in the hoop. If not, you can use your standard iron. Like I say, you'll have it set on linen with no steam. And if you've got it pressed kind of nicely there, remove the pins. And continue pressing. Get up into those corners. And press that whole thing down. When it's nicely adhered to the stabilizer, you're ready to stitch. Okay, there we go. Then at this point, do not forget, you should put a little note on your machine that tells you this, because I will forget. Ask me if I've ever forgotten before. You'll put your topper on top. So you're gonna lay your topper on top. And I'm just gonna use some embroidery perfection tape to kind of hold it lightly in place while I bring it to my machine. All right, and now I'm ready to stitch. So we have already stitched color 1 in the color order. Remember, we stitched it directly on the stabilizer. So continue stitching. The next thing that will stitch out, I believe, are these pink little baby's breath, and I think these little pink buds will stitch next. Continue and stitch the entire next section. Okay. Now, let's say we've stitched this entire right side, and we want to stitch the left side now. And something I did forget to mention, let me mention it now. We're going to take this off. All right, so we are going to stitch this section now. We're going on the left. Let me grab, we are done stitching. Pretend we stitched that right side. This is what it will look like. So at this point, you're going to tear away all the topper before you remove it from the hoop. Tear what you can get off. I'm going to use a handy dandy fancy tool to help. Let me grab my handy dandy fancy tool, screwdriver. End of the screwdriver is blunt, so I can just slide it under there and pull up sections there. Helps me get under there and get some additional topper off. Just tear what you can off, what you can get to. There you go, something like that. And then you'll turn it over to the back. Trim all these little jump stitches and tails and things like that while it's still in the hoop. You'll remove it from the hoop. And we are going to line up, well, I've already done this left side here, so we're pretending. Before you go to the next section, you'll want to tear off the stabilizer just past your placement mark, your placement bracket, so you can adhere the next section easily. You don't want too much stabilizer there. This is all written in the instructions, so tear off something like that. So I don't have that extra stabilizer when I'm going to stitch this next section or line up the next section. Okay, so I've done all that. So let's say we're ready to stitch. I've removed all my topper. I've torn the stabilizer off this end. I need to line up. We're going to the left now. Okay, so I'm going to line up this end. So my stitch order is, this always stitches first. This always stitches last. Okay, so if I want this to stitch, I'm going to have to progress through the colors in my stitch out and stitch the last bracket first. So I will stitch this bracket, which is the last color, go back to the beginning and start stitching this, and then my pink flowers and my green leaves. Okay, but to line up this, I'm going to line it up with this end. Remember, we're on the left now. So same concept. You'll have drawn your line. Use your Quilter Select glue stick. Use your pins. Look in there, lift it up, hook it into the stabilizer, then into your pressing surface. In here. And then you'll want to angle those pins kind of down to hold that down. Going like that. That'll hold that nice and tight. Lift this up. I'm kind of losing my line here. You could redraw it if you needed to. Very faint, sorry. Can't see it. You can kind of see a little bit of it there. And slide that down and press. And don't forget the topper. Put your topper on top. And stitch away. Okay, so then again, you'll tear off the stabilizer here, stitch that last marker, move over, match, and stitch this section. All right, so some things to know. Removing the topper. So people are kind of afraid of this topper. I may have tried it in the past, but let me give you some secrets here. Let's see, get the right end here. Yep, this end here. Okay, so you can kind of see, let me zoom in a little so you can kind of see a little bit of the topper. There's some left up on in here. You can kind of see a little bit there, a little bit there, you know, all this extra stuff I need to remove. Okay, so all that there. Here's the secret. First of all, your iron is set on cotton, no steam. Your iron is kind of going to scrub away the topper. Not, I don't want to say scrub, just the motion of the iron moving will roll up the topper into a ball and you'll remove it. So you'll just take your tip of your iron there and you see me kind of scrubbing it and it kind of balling up there, kind of rolling it up. And you'll brush that away. Now, if that does not happen, turn up your iron a little bit. Just kind of go like that. Rub that out of there. Use the tip of your iron to get into the tiny areas. It's kind of like you're removing stains from your laundry. You know, you get in, you scrub that little area there. Let's see, a little bit in here. Up in here. There we go. I think we're good. And the way you can see if there's more, you kind of tip it at an angle and you kind of see if it's shiny. I think I've got that out already. Okay. So tip of your iron, just kind of rub it around there and it should ball up and brush away. Now on the back, this is the fun part. On the instructions, I said, have a vacuum handy because this is messy. You'll just take a seam ripper and you'll start from the back. You'll want to pull out those placement brackets. I'm trying to grab my seam ripper here. So you'll just grab those basting stitches and just start pulling those out from the back side. And turn it over and pull out the stitches. Where is it? Oops, that was just stitched on the stabilizer because this was the end. So here's one. So it's easier to remove the basting stitches on the back and try and pick it out from the front. Okay. Anyway, you get that idea. So play with that. Then you'll need to start tearing away your tearaway stabilizer. If you want to pull it kind of into the center, that'll pull some of it out. Something like that. And pull from this side into the center. And yeah, some of your Dreamweave may pull up with it. That's fine. Peel it away and you can press it back down. Something like that. Then you're going to use that handy dandy screwdriver to get in and remove more. And of course you can't remove, or you don't need to probably remove all of this in these little areas here, but remove it from the big areas. All right. Now see, it's going to get messy. I guarantee you won't drop any of those, right? Okay. So there you have it. When you're all done from the back side, you can starch and press again and have it all nice and fancy and get it all pretty. On the end of the instructions, I did suggest that I like to take my table runners and things And instead of folding them up to store them, I roll them on an empty stabilizer tube. Store them this way instead. Oh, we don't have to press so much, right? There we go. Something like that. All righty. There you have it. There's your continuous embroidery. Okay, so now you know everything about continuous embroidery, right? So let me share my information again. You need this information really bad. Okay, so there you have it. Let me make it big. All right, so there's the information on where you can find me later. So that's my email address. There's the blog. The instructions and the design are there. And like my Floriani Educator page. Okay. All righty, everyone. Thank you for your time today. And as always, email me if you have any questions, and I can direct you in the right direction or try to answer those questions. And everyone, happy stitching. Thank you. Bye bye.